back to another episode of the Game Language Podcast, where we deduce, dissect, and discuss video games and whether or not they speak our language. I'm Troy, and with me always is
Jason.
What's up, man?
I'm doing good, man. Jazzed up from that, intro song. Always gets me jazzed.
Yeah, I love that song.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. Still tired, still recovering from a little game that pretty much everybody's been playing. But we'll talk about it later.
I'm also recovering from watching Capcom Cup
Yes.
until 3:45 in the morning.
Yes.
That was so late.
Yeah. Well, is next year going to be in Japan?
I don't know.
I hope not.
Yeah,
Not because the crowd was live. That's why
awesome.
That's why I was still awake. But god damn it, I can't still be awake at that time watching high octane matches. I need to go to bed. I'm getting too old.
I can't throw an event party either at 2 in the morning. It doesn't work.
Yeah, no, my neighbors are going to come knocking on the door.
There's no pizza place open.
But what you been playing lately, man?
Oh, there's only one thing I have been playing. That's Monster Hunter Wilds.
Yes.
I'm trying to think. Have I actually played anything different? So, for listeners and everyone, I took a week off of work for this game.
Yeah.
And it was a disgusting amount of rotting. Just, chair rot. Just to the max. Ass planted. I made roots.
You made roots?
But yeah, I really don't think I played anything else. My Switch has dust. And
Yeah.
I feel so bad. I'm like, Donkey Kong Country Returns. I will return one day. What about you? What have you been playing? Have you been have you broken away from it at all?
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
I broke away. I took off what is it? I bookended my weekend, so I took off a Monday and a Friday, or Friday and a Monday, so that I could have a good chunk to play the game. And then I finally was able to break away, jump back into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. God, I love that game. I'm a Final Fantasy fan, true and true.
That actually, okay, I forgot to say that. I completed Final Fantasy VII Rebirth right before Monster Hunter.
Yeah.
And I'm excited for you to beat it.
Yeah, I'm back in love with that game. It looks so good on the PC. One thing I never do in games, because I'm just not a patient person, is walk around the towns. I do explore the towns, but I'm running through. I'm like, oh, look at that. Oh, look at that. You know what I mean? I'm in
Exactly.
Disneyland. I'm in Disneyland. I'm moving quick. Stop, look, appreciate, run, stop, look, appreciate. But yeah, I found myself last night actually walking through this town in Cosmo Canyon, just appreciating it. I think I told you about it. I was just looking. There's what I love about this town is there's this huge distance between the very top and the bottom. Mm-hmm. You take up multiple elevators to go really high up into this mountain. And I think that one thing I've been enjoying about Rebirth is the scale, and what they've been trying to recreate from, the I don't want to say back shots. What's
the background shots.
Background shots.
You gotta add that ground in there, bro.
Background shots that you see, that you remember from the original game, and recreating that scale and that feeling. And I was standing at the very top of the town, looking down at the bottom, and I was able to see little details that were just blowing my mind.
I remember you telling me that, the tail swishing on one of the party members.
Yeah. And so I'm just
That's always crazy.
yeah, I've been enjoying that game, just soaking it all in after I've been just killing monsters for hours and hours and hours without sleep. But yeah, a little bit of Final Fantasy, a little bit of Monster Hunter, which I would consider is a great time.
Yeah. No, I mean, those are two really great games. I don't think anyone would argue that that's a great time right there. But yeah, let's find out what's going on in the world of gaming with our 3 bites of news stories. And we've got some pretty crazy ones. First one, keeping it Monster Hunter themed. Mm-hmm. Monster Hunter Wilds sells 8 million copies in 3 days, becoming Capcom's fastest selling title of all time. Jesus. And for context, World only sold 5 million in that same time frame. So it's got 3 million on World, which was the previous record holder. Yeah, it's crazy. Also, as I don't know if it was a reward for doing so good, but Ryozo Sugimoto, the executive producer of Monster Hunter, the creator of it, he became the corporate officer of the gaming division for Capcom. So he is over all video game divisions.
Yeah.
Which is cool. Monster Hunter comes out at a very regular pace, and it seems like it's managed really well. So I'm excited to see what that means for the other franchises, because I love Capcom. just give me more games.
Yeah, I do want to make a comment on that. I really do hope. So you and I have talked about this even before the podcast became a thing, and even afterwards, that how much we appreciate the rollout of each Monster Hunter. You know, something about the way that they handle how the games are being advertised, the amount of content that they're willing to show, and still have like the confidence that the game that you're going to play won't be spoiled. How they show up at each of the like, you know, state of plays, things like that, and provide content and information, and then the support of the game afterwards. We've said before, if certain games could follow the release schedule and like the sort of marketing schedule of Monster Hunter, that we'd be even more hyped for those games. So to hear that he's going to be taking over the gaming division when it comes to Capcom, it just like, hopefully all of those games would follow a similar, like maybe this might be a new standard. Like we have the Nintendo Direct type of standard that they've set for their company. If they set this standard for Capcom, I think that a lot of other industries or other game companies might follow suit, because I think that it is an extremely successful, what is the word?
Like model.
Model,
yeah.
Exactly. Extremely successful model. I
was going to say, I really have a very positive look and hope for him because I love Ryozo.
Yeah.
I've become a big fan since World. And just the way that Capcom's been working, ever since like they restructured after World, it's just been incredible being a fan of that company.
Has he looked over? Well, when was the first time he started working on Monster Hunter? Has he been there since the entire?
He was the one who created it.
He created. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. No, he knows. He knows how to make a good game.
My only wish is, Ryozo, please, now that you're corporate officer, give me Dragon's Dogma 2 DLC. I need the Dark Arisen expansion, bro. Come on. Yeah. That's it. That's all. Sorry. Anywho, now we got to go on to sadder news. Monolith Productions has been shut down after 30 years by WB. If you don't know who Monolith Productions is, they created the Nemesis system for Shadow of War, Lord of the Rings game. And they did Shadow of War, or did I say that? Shadow of Mordor, Shadow of War.
Yeah.
Lost Shadows. It just really sucks to hear, because I think the Nemesis system was probably one of the like best advances in technology in the PS4 gen, but because WB patented it, no one's got to use it, so it really sucks. And now that Monolith is shut down, I doubt WB's going to let anyone use it, especially since the devs there don't get to take it with them. You know, it's part of the IP rights of WB at this point. So it really sucks, because they're a good studio. It was sad that like they talked about it on Discord a little bit, some of the devs that got laid off. It just seemed like, the Wonder Woman game that they were working on that got canceled just wasn't coming together. But the other thing, too, is that they tried to make a new game, like a new IP, and it was just taking too long to, like, form. And so it got shut down, too.
Wow.
So it just sucks. I really hope that those developers find work elsewhere, because they're incredible. They deserve to work, because like, even though I don't play those games that much anymore, since they haven't made one since the PS4, I found those games to be like glitch free, polished, and like fun. So I'm like, you don't get that often from a Western developer. So I would love to see them come back in some way. But anywho, the last bit of news, this one hits a little rough for me. Dragon Age Veilguard is already on PS Plus for everybody. Not the super premium tier, not the mid tier, the basic bitch tier of PlayStation Plus gets Dragon Age the Veilguard less than 6 months from its release. That game hasn't been out for 6 months, and it's already free. For PS Plus subscribers.
I'm gonna have Alex download it, because I think she'll like it.
Yeah, she probably will. I don't think it's that bad of a game.
No,
like it. I gave it around a 7 or an 8.
Yeah.
I think if you're a Dragon Age fan, maybe it's a bit rough, but I don't know. That sucks to have bought a game full price and to see it just like free so little time later. So that's why it like stuck out to me, because it's just like, I don't mind that it goes to PS Plus. Like, I would love more people to actually play it and, maybe give it more of a fair shake, because I feel like a lot of the internet discussion about it is just like, this is the worst game ever. And I'm like, it's not. It's a pretty fun game if you give it a chance, but I still would like them to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Because this makes it feel
like they failed, or like they're throwing in the towel, maybe.
Well, we knew that they failed. Because the team's completely shut down.
Yeah.
But it stings a little bit as someone who bought it at full price, because you're just like, wait, really? I could have just waited 4.5 months and you would have just given it to me? Okay. All right. So just stings a little. But that's all. But yeah, that's going to do it for the news. Some good stuff, some bad stuff.
So I have a quick question on that. With it moving to PS Plus, when they do that, do they make a sort of like a deal or anything?
Yeah, they do. PlayStation pays them. So I imagine EA is just trying to recoup a lot of the money they lost. On developing the game, because they have a lot to make back. Yeah, it seems. I mean, the game was in development for 10 years, and just think about the average salary of a game developer is $120K a year. 90 to 120K is the standard. When you have a team of like 120 people that get that pay,
that's a lot.
Just think about how much that costs a year. That they're losing like 15 million a year just to develop. So that's why when like delays happen, it's like, oh no, that's why indie games and stuff usually don't delay. Or like, no, indies delay, but like AA doesn't. They don't have the money to afford
they can't afford
delay.
it. Damn.
Triple A's will delay because they're like, okay, yeah, what's another 10 million on the 300 million we've already thrown into this? And it's just like, So yeah, the fact that it went for 10 years, I know it got rebooted. Like, it's not like they worked on Veilguard for 10 years. It went through about 3 to 4 different iterations. But I mean, like, EA funded it the whole time.
I do hope they make the money back. You never like to see a company fail or a game fail, because it's just another like blow to the like game developer kid that I have inside, who's just like, man, when I grow up I want to be a game developer. Didn't happen, but it's still, I want to see game developing like succeed, so that the kids that come after us are still eager to do that, and not think of it as such a like volatile like industry where things fail and then you just get let go, and you don't really get to achieve what you wanted. So I'm hoping that they recoup the costs and it turns out to be an okay story rather than a terrible story.
Yeah, I was gonna say, because like, to be honest, I'm one of those people that does root for EA to lose sometimes.
Damn it.
Well, in specific scenarios.
Yeah.
I think the thing that makes you irritated about Dragon Age failing so badly is like, they actually did everything pro-consumer this time. Yeah. It has no DRM, so the game's performance is incredible, especially on PC. It looks gorgeous. It's bug-free. Like, they didn't do any microtransactions. Like, they did everything they could to give you just like a good, solid single-player game with no strings attached. And it's bombing. And I'm like, that sucks, because it's like EAFC and FIFA are right there, being total dog shit year after year after year. It's the same game, charging you $70 and then doing Ultimate Team on top of it. And that continues to succeed. And I'm like, I want that to fail. Yeah. But seeing stuff like Dragon Age where I'm like, man, you did everything right. I mean, obviously other than the like writing and whatever problems people have with the actual game, but like the delivery of the product was incredible. And they're getting trashed for it. Because that's the other thing. On PC, there's no launcher. You don't have to do an EA Origins launcher. That shit sucks. Like,
I don't know what they could have done differently. I guess been more true to the vibe and the feel of Dragon Age. I think that maybe they got too far away from the original like image and inception of the game, and so that could be the problem.
Yeah, no, that 100% is the problem, but that's the cost of it being rebooted. Like, essentially this version of Veilguard we got, I think, was only made in 3.5 years.
Oh, okay.
So it's not like it got a lot of time. Yeah. Most games take 5 to 7. So they that's why it feels very like weirdly, like, the vibes are all mismatched.
Yeah.
That game was meant to be a live service multiplayer game.
Yeah.
And then they moved it, which is why I'm like, yeah, the loot gear and everything makes a lot more
sense. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense. Okay. Well, moving on to our game. It's going to be 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Yeah. The confusing game that we all love.
I love this game.
So to go over the rules again, we choose 5 games from a specific category. Today's category is Street Fighter. So those 5 games are going to be Street Fighter 2, Street Fighter Third Strike, Street Fighter 4, Street Fighter 5, and Street Fighter 6. All the best Street Fighters.
Yes. No one likes that first one.
So of those 5 games, we choose 4 games to represent. Of those 4 games, from one of them, we will choose one to present 3 sounds. From a different game of the 4 group, we'll choose 2 names of characters. And then finally, from one of those 4 games, we will choose one to choose the title of to represent. For the 3 sounds, you can earn 3 points. For the 2 character names, you can earn 2 points. And then for the name from the title, you can earn 1 point. 1 bonus point is if you can guess the game that wasn't represented of the 5 games. Mm-hmm. Super confusing, super fun.
Yes.
Love it.
I love it.
I will. Do you want to guess first or you want me to guess first?
I'll go first this time.
You're going to guess first?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. All right. So first off, I'm going to have Adonis go ahead and play my 3 sounds.
Nice. Hadouken! All right. Shoryuken! Okay.
Spinning bird kick!
Street Fighter 4?
Damn, good job.
Yeah. I was waiting to hear because you can go ahead and play my sound.
Okay, no. All right, so you get to 3 points. You get your 3 points. Let me go ahead and mark that down on the board, you little bastard. All right, so then let me go ahead and pull up my character names. Let's see if you can guess these 2. Remy and Urian.
Remy?
Yeah, Remy and Urian.
Street Fighter Third Strike?
Damn it. Yes, that is true. That is true. So you get the 2 points from there. And then finally, this one's going to be easy. I'm just going to use the word alpha.
Street Fighter 2?
Yes. I wanted to put in a word that was easily representable because
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Now I'm going to change mine.
So you got all 6 points. All right. I guess I'll give it to you. And then finally, can you guess which game I didn't represent?
Street Fighter 6.
Yeah.
I had a feeling that was the one you'd leave out.
Yeah. Good job. Good job. All right. My turn to guess.
Let's the sound clips are coming. See what you can do.
Okay.
Shoryuken!
Okay.
Hadouken!
So those are all 3 Ryu sounds.
We both did similar things. You did add the spinning bird kick. I will give you credit on that one.
That K sounds like... Is that Third Strike?
It is. You got it. You got it.
I was like, those all sound like Ryu sounds, but they don't sound new enough for 4 or 5 or 6. It's got to be 2 or 3, but I don't remember him ever making that sound in 2.
I was going to say, that's how I deduced to find out to guess 4 for you. I was like, that doesn't sound as crisp as 5. It doesn't sound as grainy as 3. It's got to be 4.
Yeah. Okay. I know my Ryu sounds.
All right. So for the next game, the names, I have Makoto and Oni.
Makoto and Oni? Mm-hmm. Those both have to be... Is that 4?
That is.
Yeah, because Oni is...
He's Ultra Street Fighter.
Yeah. Ultra Street Fighter, you had Evil Ryu and Oni.
Mm-hmm.
And you had Gaoken. Street Fighter 4 had the best character roster. I'm just going to say it.
Oh, yeah. It had
Street Fighter 4. It had every... it was the Smash Ultimate of Street Fighter. Ultra Street Fighter 4... hands down, best character roster ever.
Yeah, no, I agree. Mm-hmm. I agree. All right. For the title, arcade.
Street Fighter 5 Arcade Edition?
You got it.
Yeah.
It's too easy. Now, can you guess which one I left out?
So you did Third Strike, you did 4, you did 5. Did you leave out 2?
I did. Yeah, I don't really care for 2. I know. I love it for what it did.
Yeah.
I tried to play that game on like the cabinet in Street Fighter 6 in the arcade. And I was like, dude, this game sucks. I can't stand this.
All right. So we both got all the points. No losers here.
I know.
No losers here, but we're both losers, I guess, because we both want to beat the other person.
True. These draws, these stalemates are going to end one day.
Yeah. So there's 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The confusing game we all love. Thanks for playing.
Oh, yeah. No, I appreciate it. I love playing that game. It's always a fun time, especially the sound bites part.
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
Always gets thrown off. But yeah, now we're going to move into impressions. And this is going to be a special impressions because we both spent an absurd amount of time playing Monster Hunter Wilds in the last week. So this is our impressions, but also our kind of language review of it.
Yeah, it's impressions, but it's a review, but it's not a review, but it's also a review. So
we're not going to give it a number score.
Yeah. But if I had to give it a number score.
That gets 5 big booms from me. Boom.
All right. So I guess I'll start off asking you the questions because while I did play quite a bit of the game, I feel like you played, like say I played. I
can tell you what time you played compared to me.
Yeah. What's my time on the game?
You have 80 hours.
And what do you got?
Got 111.
Okay. So now we know.
That's what happens when you have 4 days off more.
So I guess I want to ask first and foremost, we everybody played a lot of the beta, right?
Mm-hmm.
You got to hang out in the Windward Plains, everything. How did it feel finally getting past the stuff we had already seen in the beta?
So I'm glad you asked that. I loved it, and I was very impressed by the regions. But I'll be honest, it didn't impress me as much as the Windward Plains did initially.
Yeah,
the beta, like I walked around the map a lot just because I was like, I love this new Monster Hunter. I thought that would be me in the Scarlet Forest, but it hasn't been. I've had a good couple times like doing environment links with you, and that's what I'm missing. What I'm hoping will happen more of. But now that like we've gotten to the end of the game, it doesn't feel as like imperative to do that, or like there's not as much of a pool other than the fun factor of it.
Yeah.
So I will say that like it was weird because I do think the Windward Plains is still impressive, still amazing. But I don't think the other areas like hit me as hard as that one did initially, even though it's not my favorite area. I think that one was probably the most impressive though out the gate.
I would have to agree wholeheartedly. I think that something about the Windward Plains feels very, how do you say, like it feels like it's part of the same formula as World. Now with World, I can tell you, I think each one of the maps I enjoyed a lot. Ancient Forest, obviously, so much more than anything. Than any of the others, but I did like them all a lot, you know. While in Wilds, I really did. How do I say this? The Windward Plains felt home. It felt familiar. It felt cozy. Even though it's not my favorite map in the game, there's something about it that feels like at home. The other maps, while I like them because they are they're more layered, like the Oil Well Basin, much more layered, much more interesting sort of like environment, like design. There's still something about the other layer, the levels that do not feel as familiar as the Windward Plains did. And that's where I feel. Not that I dislike the other stages. It's just that I thought the same thing, is that I would be walking around every nook and cranny of every stage like we did in World.
I was going to say, I actually agree, because one of the things that did surprise me, the Scarlet Forest is about as big as the Windward Plains, and one feels probably as has as much depth. Oil Well Basin as well. I will say the last two maps did feel like kind of tiny in comparison, both the Ice Shard Cliffs and the Ruins of Wyveria.
Yes, So I have to agree. I think that
especially the Ruins, it was like it's just a circle.
It's just a circle. Yeah. The Ruins feels bigger than the Elder's Recess from World.
Yeah.
But at the same time feels smaller than what I expected from Wild. I think particularly for me, and we'll get into like specifics like gameplay and all that stuff in a moment. This is just like initial feel of everything that I touched.
Well, I mean, it's wilds. We're talking about the environments
Yeah.
first. It feels appropriate.
It feels appropriate. And this is not like a huge disappointment. But the thing is, I expected the monsters to take me more places, and I want to start right now with like a hey, this is a spoiler. If you don't want to hear anything about specifics on each monster and stuff, I would go skip past this part because I'm gonna let loose. So I just want to give you a good preface. But for me, the monsters didn't take me to each of the places, like these little interesting nooks and crannies, like I wanted them to. I think that was one of our big not complaints, but like, hey, this is what we want from the next game. When we played World, we went back and we went through the coral reefs. We went through all the different like zones and looked at every little spot. And there were fewer spots in that game than there are in this one where I was like, hey, I hope we get to fight here. And we didn't. By the end of the game and by the end of all the DLC, we didn't get to fight in those places. But I feel like I see that a lot more in Wild, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I found that like a lot of monsters have unique nests.
Yeah.
And that's been a real big highlight for me, is that they'll usually use their nest in an interesting way. But I agree with you. There's a lot of parts on the map that just feel like totally unused.
Yeah.
Maybe they're just waiting for a new monster.
Yeah. I'm hoping that as more monsters get dropped into the ecosystem, that they'll start either pushing those monsters to use other spots, like by occupying those areas that they're in, pushing them to other areas, or vice versa. These new creatures will go to these areas that other monsters don't go to. There's like a whole nest in the Scarlet Forest that I haven't used yet that I would like to use.
I've only fought a monster in passing there that just went through it to get to the top part of the forest.
Yep.
And they didn't even stay there long. Like I got to do a couple hits. I think I broke a wound. They got stunned, and as soon as they got up, they just climbed. They went straight back to the other spots. And I was like,
and I'd like to see more of the. One of the things I liked about World was there's a specific Rathalos nest in the ancient forest. Tobi Kodachi uses it. Fucking what's his name? Rathalos uses it. Like most of the monsters I fight on that stage use that spot where you go in past the vines, past the boulders that fall, and then there's like a little nest that you play around and you can fall all the way to the bottom. And they utilize that space in different ways. And I was hoping for that type of experience, but it seems like every monster goes to a specific place in Wilds, and that's the place that they go to. So you follow them along the same path. Like Ulduna is a big fish monster that you fight. Very cool how many interactables that they have you access with him outside the map, but he goes the same place every time.
I was gonna say he's the one though that is like that. I feel like he's an exception. I actually do think that monsters do go to more spots.
Okay.
Just because like I follow Chotacabra like all over the Windward Plains. And Ray Dow goes all over the place. He fights not only in like the main like Oasis, not the Oasis area, but the main like field that's right next to the base camp. He goes from there, but he also goes sometimes to the crystal pillars at the top of the map, and then other times he goes and fights me in the dunes, fights me by the Oasis, and then fights me at his nest and outside his nest. Like he goes all over the map.
Okay.
Ulduna though, you are right. He's just there. He's either at the bottom of the waterfall or he climbs up it to go swimming, and that's it. And I'm like, yeah, that does suck because I think Uthduna's cool as hell.
Yeah.
But yeah, he seems like he was designed only for like those two areas.
Exactly. And he has probably the most interesting interactables in his fight, in my opinion. From the rocks on the outside of the zone to the waterfall rocks. Just a lot of, like, even him swimming up the river, there's an interactable. There's a lot of places to interact with Uthdduna, so I thought I'd see him throughout more of the map.
He also shows up, when you're swimming under the water.
Yeah,
that one spot.
yeah.
He shows up there.
Yeah,
and I
like
love
that. And I only saw that on YouTube because it's so rare to see it. And we'll get into what could have pushed me to play the game more. But I think that I jumped in at the ground level with the same expectations as when I leave other Monster Hunters at their finale. Yeah. And that's an expectations thing that needs to be adjusted. But
yeah, and we'll get into that because I just want to wrap up the bow on the environments. I do still think they're incredible, and even though I've put 111 hours into the game, I haven't fully explored these areas. Yeah, I keep finding new spots every time. But yeah, it is a little. You and I have discussed this when playing the game.
Yeah,
but had a huge issue with the game not forcing me to interact with a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
And that's how I feel about the environments is like, I just found, I was telling you last night, I found vines that actually like old school world. You can climb on them, swing on them just to get to like a new gathering spot.
Yeah.
And that's sick. I loved that stuff in World. I love to see that they're like, oh, we're not abandoning that. But it was really hard to find. Like,
yeah. When in the Ancient Forest, it was a typical way to follow a monster. That was one of the things that they do a lot of is in previous games. And I think that I'm sure that it's in this game too. You just aren't forced to do it.
Yeah.
Is you optimize your way of travel to chase down a monster from spot to spot. And that kind of adds to the efficiency of the hunt, which is important. A lot of the times they'll introduce quests that have limited time for you to complete the boss. And so they'll give you an aggressive monster, give you a limited amount of time, and it's important for you to optimize every moment so that you can finish it in time, get your rewards and move on. And those things like the vines, jumping from those when you would chase the monster in the Ancient Forest, it was important to do that or else you have to slog through the water and then finally catch up to them and fight them.
And it also gave you an opportunity to do a jump attack.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what's funny is that you bring that up, and I didn't even think about this until now, but I think Secret kind of ruins the flow of the hunt, like hella badly.
Oh yeah, 100%. For every good that Secret brings, and I'm sorry for cutting you off. Every good that Secret brings, there is that you said, the thrill of the hunt. I think got what's the word? When you put it on tracks, like it got.
Well, it got ignored.
Ignored and overly simplified. But go on.
Yeah, because I was gonna say it got ignored in the sense that like you really don't think about like travel. You press up on the D-pad, Secret picks you up and auto runs, and you just sharpen, look at your phone until you get close to the monster, hear a roar, and start fighting again. And I think it actually helps. It's probably one of the reasons why I feel like the game feels really too fast. I'm killing monsters in sub 5 minutes, like even tempered monsters. And that's not like a brag or anything. I'm not that great of a gamer, like especially at Monster Hunter. I run pretty unoptimized builds.
Yeah.
So it's weird to me that I'm able to do that when in World and, well, not Rise. I feel like this game follows the time format of Rise too much.
Yeah.
Which I didn't like. Rise, I was able to overlook it because it's a mobile game. It was meant to be played in like 20 to 30 minute sessions. That's it. Wilds, I'm like, no, dude, you should make me want to sit down for 2 hours like I did with World. Like I would never turn World on for 15 minutes. Just I wouldn't. That's not a session.
That's what it took to get ready for the hunt that you were about to do for an hour to ensure that you actually got your rewards and didn't cart at 45 minutes for the final time and then have to do it all over again. That's what you did. You went, you ate, you checked your items, you checked your weapons, you checked everything to make sure you were good to go. And then you check your lucky voucher and then you go on your hunt and then you're in there for like the length of like a League of Legends match. You know, you're in there for a minute and you're in for a grueling, like nail biting fight. Whereas, a majority of the time, so I'm playing this with my wife, and I'm sorry to like jump all over the place, but, we'd get into a hunt and again, I forgot to eat. She's like always forgot to eat. And that's not saying that I was getting upset with her not eating. It was just surprising to me that she'd forget to eat and we'd still kill the monster without her carting like more than like once or twice, you know?
Those are actually the times that the only times I cart is when my meal effect runs out mid-fight. Yeah. And then I get one shot. And I'm like, oh, what happened there? And I was like, oh, shit, my meal effects went off. Yeah, it is odd, though. I really do wish that Secret wasn't as overtuned. Yeah. But I still love Secret. And
yes.
So.
Yeah, if like hear me out, I think that it would have been cool if we did the traditional version of like World where you get into a map, your job is to discover the monster. When you got enough what is it? I think it was like a discovery meter. Like if you discovered enough about the monster, then you would unlock auto tracking.
Yeah.
That I think that would have been a good way to kind of push us to explore the world, utilize secrets, interactability, find items and everything, and then pick up things and then unlock the ability to quick travel. Kind of like we did in World where we'd get in and then we'd know where the monster was because we knew enough about them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but I feel like that's enough like harping on the game because there's so much good.
I was gonna say, yeah, we're only. I prefer to front load a lot of the negative criticism because the spoiler for the language, this game definitely speaks my language to an absurd degree. I haven't been this happy with a video game since Elden Ring. And that's saying a lot. There's been a lot of amazing games since Elden Ring. But this game just like it hits on every level for me. The only thing is that in my overexcitement for this franchise, I had the same problem that you've had, expectations.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been having to constantly wrestle with myself the entire time playing this game, is that I'm like, don't get mad that there's not a lot of content. You are a veteran, and you are comparing this to a game that has literally double the monsters because it has an expansion. You can't do that. This game cannot. I don't think a new Monster Hunter can ever have as much content as the previous one because they're live service games.
Yeah.
And when you get to the end of a live service, unlike other live services, they don't vault content. So when you go on, because like I've been talking to one of our friends that is a huge Monster Hunter World fan. Here's the thing. He never played World. He played Iceborne. And I'm like, that's going to skew your view of what a Monster Hunter game is, because he hated Rise and he bounced off it. And I was like, why? He's like, well, I'm not as powerful. I'm not this. And I'm like, well, yeah, you got there in Monster Hunter World Iceborne, because they not only did they have Master Rank and Master Rank gear, they also added a new mechanic. Playing base world with the Clutch Claw is a joke. Yeah. It makes the game super easy. But, you know, people don't think about that when they've played a game for 500 hours and they remember the hard parts, because the hard part was the last 300 hours of their game. Yeah. So now they're playing Wilds. It's just the base difficulty. Like, imagine the game right now only has easy and normal mode. Like, it doesn't even have hard mode. No wonder it feels super easy. Yeah. But it's incomplete. And not as like, this isn't worth $70, because it absolutely is. It's in the sense that, like, in the context of the series, these games never come out fully fleshed. They're meant to be added on. So this is the new ground for the next generation of Monster Hunter. But so that's one thing I've been like wrestling with. And so when I hate to say I lowered my expectations, but when I was like, stop thinking about Master Rank, stop thinking about that, just compare this to how you played World and Rise at base. And that's what made me think, I'm like, no, this is my favorite, like, Monster Hunter experience. Even if I do have criticisms of it. But how have you felt about the like content of the game?
So for the content of the game, I've felt that, how do I say it? It's, while I like it, I think there was just specific things that I wanted that I didn't get. So I want to talk about, I guess I'll talk about it from what it provided me rather than what I wanted from it. I think that what they gave me was really good content. I think that they gave a cinematic story for anybody who would be jumping into this for the first time, right? You grab this game, you decide to play it yourself before you even play with friends. The story mode, while the writing wasn't my favorite, you got to showcase your hunter, your created character doing really cool things, voice acted for so much of the story, which was really cool. And I think that is probably the most interactability I've seen my custom character have since Baldur's Gate, you know? Yeah. And I actually really like this world we're getting into, where created characters have a huge personality. So I've liked that. And I did like the quality of monsters that we got to fight, regardless of the number. I think that they introduced a couple new types that I have never fought against, like, what do you call them with tentacles?
Jewu and Nuudra.
Yeah. So a couple like squid-like monsters, which was cool. I think that they brought back a couple of fan favorites. I think that Chotacabra, and I know you don't like Doshiguma, but I do like Doshiguma.
I like Doshiguma in the game. I hate fighting him. Gotcha. He's just... See, that's the thing, though. It's a good thing that I hate him. He's just really unpredictable.
Yeah, he's an asshole. But I've liked the monsters that they've added, and I liked just overall. I think that they tried to incorporate the feeling that you get from World and from Rise within the game, while also introducing it in a completely new way. Still do I get the feeling of getting knocked down and then getting picked up by Secret, so I have a way to cancel out of being like stuck in these animations like I did in Rise, but in a completely different way. Being able to glide and stuff with Secret, they're introducing that mechanic that is like prevalent in every game nowadays, which is some type of gliding mechanic. Mm-hmm. But you're doing it on your mount in a really fun way while still maintaining like damn near full interactability while gliding.
Yeah, you can hop off while gliding.
You can hop off,
do a jump attack.
You can pick up items while gliding. You can interact with like falling rocks and stuff while gliding. You can do just about everything aside from a mounted attack, which you can do while on the ground. There's like I have to commend them on thinking of creative new ways to push the genre, not the genre, but the franchise forward, while still maintaining the feel that they think that the players appreciated from the previous titles. I think that's a challenging thing to do.
Yeah.
And so content wise, I've been impressed by everything. I think my number one complaint is I didn't get enough of each of those. And I think that that's just a selfish sort of I liked it's I sat down, I got a meal, and the meal is so good, but it's like I'm still hungry. And you can't complain to the chef that you're still hungry. He made a badass meal, you know what I mean? So it's like
that's how I feel too, though, is like the game's content is actually really good. It's only got 2 less monsters than World. And if we really want to like go there, I think the roster's better in Wilds. Yeah. In terms of variety. But I get what you're saying, where I just feel like bad to ask the chef for more.
Yeah, please, sir, can I have some more? Like,
yeah,
please.
He's like, you gotta wait. I gotta cook. And I'm like, okay, well, title updates. I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do think the content was extremely good. That's why I say this game absolutely is worth $70. You don't put 111 hours in a game that sucks ass.
Yeah.
Not unless you truly hate yourself, but I don't.
So far, I've only had one person that we've had tons of people in our Discord playing the game, and only one person has returned it, and that's strictly because of the motion sickness that they get from playing the game. Yeah. So even with the motion sickness mode that's on the game, it doesn't help them, and so they had to return the game. But each person that's played it has enjoyed it. I do think that it because of the way that the story mode is handled, it kind of segregates the players, so people feel like there's no reason to play with each other because they're like, you're so far ahead of me, you're either killing this monster too fast, or I feel like I can't keep up or get to you soon enough so that we can play seamlessly together. And so maybe it's like, if you play the game, play with a group of people that are going to stay around your like, I want to say level of commitment.
I don't know if I would agree with that, because I actually find that the campaign is worse in multiplayer. Personally,
I agree with that.
It's bad. I think it's better if you want help, like to play multiplayer. I think it's better to have someone who's already beaten it, who's just waiting.
Okay.
As long as they don't spoil it for you, but
of course. So I hear what you're saying, because they don't get caught up in being stuck in certain parts. They can just jump in whenever you're ready. Mm-hmm. I guess how's your experience been with playing with people who are still going through the story? Have they been happy to have you around? Have they felt like you guys are too far apart? Because the few people that I've tried to play with have kind of bounced out because they've been like, yeah, you guys are way ahead of me. This is like not really fun to play together, and they've like bounced out of playing.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I haven't had that experience with people that I'm helping.
Okay.
To be honest, because I'm like trying to think. My friend, yeah, I've been playing with like 4 people through it. I will say I haven't played with you and Alex recently after like the first 2 days, but I play with you. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't heard that. The only thing that I could see as a complaint is that I'm killing it too fast if I'm helping.
Yeah.
But I also haven't. Most people that I've helped want to get through it.
Yeah.
So they don't care that it's 2 minutes faster. But yeah, I mean, so you've had that experience though. Like, what was the reason? Like, just too far in difference? Like, what is that? Was it too easy?
It was either too easy or they just were bored playing together because we get in there, I'd do pretty much all the work, and then they'd be like, okay. And then we'd move on to the next one. There's only one person who I had who was eager to get through that, but at least my experience has been certain people are just too far behind, and they're just like, yeah, they've played a couple, they're kind of intimidated how far ahead I am already. So they've just been like, hey, I'm going to go play something else. And so I've had that with about 2 or 3 people. Okay. So that's the one thing I would hope is that whoever plays it doesn't, like, you don't have one friend who grinds the whole thing, finishes the whole game, and then the other person is like, well, you've already beaten all of it. I don't really want to play together kind of thing. So
yeah, I can, because I was going to say, obviously it happened. So it's just a little, my perspective on, but I'm a Monster Hunter fan. Mm-hmm. So for me, like, whenever somebody is like, I'm going through the story, I'm like, I would love to help you. More parts. Yeah. More money. I don't care to go back and do old content because that's kind of the flow of the game is to, you're going to fight these monsters over and over. So that's odd to me, but I at the same time, that's how people feel, then that's how they feel.
And I did want to ask on something you just said, fighting the monsters over and over again. Have you felt any form of fatigue on any of the monsters?
Only a couple, to be honest.
I was going to say, I personally haven't felt fatigue on each of the monsters. Anytime I'm fighting a monster, I'm having a good time. Like, anytime. I'd like, it could be Chata. I still have a fun time fighting Chotacabra. He's probably my favorite.
Second favorite monster.
He is. I really like it when a monster has like crunchy parts to break. And one of my other favorite monsters is Gos Harag from Rise. He does the same thing, powers up his arms, and then they sound so good to break, you know? Mm-hmm. So I've still enjoyed fighting each of the monsters. I haven't run into one that I hated, despised, or didn't have a good time with.
The only monster I have, like, it's not even a bad time, but it's an annoying time, Yin Kutku.
Yeah?
I hate that monster.
I love fighting Yin Kutku.
See, no, he keeps doing the Rathalos Rush, but throws fireballs at the same time. And I hate it.
What do you fight against him with?
Oh, I fought him with a bunch of weapons.
Yeah.
I play, should be able to tell everyone what we play. Weapon-wise. Well, actually, we'll get to the weapons when we start talking about combat. I want to finish on, like, monsters and content. I do fight him with a bunch of weapons. I play with 8 of the 14 weapons. Yeah. And I fought him probably with like 4 or 5 of them. I've used Greatsword, Longsword on him, Charge Blade.
How do you feel against him with the ranged weapon? Because I actually like fighting him a lot with the bow.
Oh, I haven't used the bow on him.
Okay, the bow is like,
try that later.
Yeah, the bow is my favorite because he's a monster whose wings are hurt by projectiles. So I actually have more parts that I can hit. His face is just a giant target. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time, like you said, he's running around shooting fireballs. And one of the cool things they introduce with the bow is if you perfect dodge, you get all your stamina back. So they're like these slow moving like projectiles that I can time every time for like a perfect dodge. He does this move where he like jumps forward and like pecks over and over again. He stands still. That's a perfect place for me to like drop arrows on him. He just happens to be somebody who's really fun for me to fight with a ranged weapon. So I've fought in the Scarlet Forest. I got in a fight with like 5 Yin Kutkuts, and it was just so much fun because I was just dropping range. I was doing friggin' Dragon Piercer through all of them. They're all just like falling all over the place. So I haven't touched him with a melee weapon yet.
Okay. So I was gonna say that might change my perspective on him if I go and try him with a bow. Mm-hmm. But since we're talking on monsters, who is your favorite monster, and who's your least favorite
from this game?
Yeah, from Wilds.
That's a big question. From this game, I would say my favorite monster to fight is Raydao.
Good choice.
Yeah, and I think I'm gonna get into this a little bit. All right, because Raydao is my favorite because I've started to notice that as a bow main, flying creatures are my favorite. That's my rule. Is I have a melee weapon for people on the ground most of the time, and then I have a range weapon for those who fly. Yin Kutku's a little bit of a is a outlier because I know he's a grounded opponent, but I fought him with a bow and it was a good time when I did.
He still flies away.
He flies away. Yeah, so that's my rule, and I end up liking fighting flying opponents the most. What I love about Ray Dow is a lot of his. I think he's designed around specifically the certain openings that they want you to take control of in this game. I feel like a lot of he had to have been one of the first monsters they designed for Wilds. I feel like it. He has big wind up wing slash he does. It's very cinematic to watch him fly away and do this giant wing attack. Perfect for perfect dodging, perfect blocking, so that you can do clashes. Perfect for doing offset attacks. It's like a move designed to say, hey, I'm doing a big move. Are you going to challenge it or are you going to run away? If you're willing to take the risk, you're going to have a really big, cool moment where he does this big-ass move and you counter it in some way. He has a really cool cinematic move. He's like a railgun, essentially. He's got a face like a railgun. So he does this move where he charges up and shoots these big-ass blasts, and like everything around gets dark when he does so. So it's like really cinematic. It's focused on him, and then it like you're already focusing on that spot on his face, so that when afterwards, when he there's like a mechanic in the game where each monster will do like a big move, and then afterwards they'll be vulnerable. Like they'll have a vulnerable spot so that you can get a focus attack and get like like to knock him down and get like whatever benefits your weapon gets from a focus attack. Very easy. You see his face turns all red. It opens up and he's just sitting there for a second to say, okay, you've succeeded in dodging. Now take control of the moment. And then my number one favorite thing on him is the fact that each one of his body parts gets covered in crystals. Like I said, when it comes to Gasarag, I love the feeling of like whatever sound that they've decided for like shattering things is the best. It's like so satisfying.
It's like a weird glass rock sound. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it's that feeling. So he gets it on his tail. He gets it on his wings. And me as a bow user, that means that I have some form of satisfying break on each part of his body. When you use bows, you don't always get the like satisfying feeling of cutting off tails. So sometimes you completely avoid the back half of a monster because you're not going to break anything back there. You might break the tail, but it's not as satisfying as cutting the tail off. Yeah. With him, every point of his 4 parts of his body feel satisfying to hit. I think that's why Ray Dow is my favorite. So definitely my favorite monster to fight in Wilds. My least favorite would have to be who do I come across and I'm just like, no, I don't like Odoguron.
Yeah.
Ebony Odoguron. I've never really liked fighting Odoguron. Maybe I got PTSD from fighting him in an effluvial area. So not only was I dealing with like the poison, not the poison, but the like damage over time plus his bleeding. So I've always hated fighting him. I also think he is way too wily. I don't like fighting wily monsters. They're really hard to shoot. He has some of the most unpredictable signs for when he goes to attack. He'll like do like a big ass backflip and then he'll immediately slash you. And then now you're bleeding. So now you got to sit still, and he's just like, he's exactly like walking my dog when she's trying to run away and I can't control her. He's just so frustrating. So, Odoguron has and probably will always be one of my least favorite monsters to fight when it comes to Monster Hunter. So, what about you? Who's your favorite and who's your least favorite?
My favorite is Jin Dahad.
Yeah.
The Ice Apex. He's incredible. So he's a giant monster. He's he's categorized as a Leviathan monster. And boy, does he feel like it. Yeah. Also, playing his tempered version is actually tough. It's probably the most challenging fight in the game. Yeah. But the thing is, he does the mechanic that you love. He's got breakable parts all over him. And I really love the flow of the fight where it goes from break his tail, break his head, then break his back, and then kill him. That it always feels so good. He has some of the coolest moves to see. I love when he like climbs on the towers and you have to shoot it down. I love his nuke. He has this move where you have to look in the environment, you have to grab an ice. You have to bring down a rock so that you can bring down cover for yourself.
Yeah.
And then hide behind it. And I know they've done that. Like the nuke from Behemoth. They've done the nuke from Sophajiva in World. But seeing it in Wilds, I'm just like, yes.
I think that's a staple Monster Hunter mechanic at this point.
Mm-hmm. So Jindahad is very much my favorite. But I would say that like Ray Dow is probably runner up.
Yeah.
And then Chotacabra. Least favorite, I mean, as of right now, it's Yin Kutku.
Yin Kutku, yeah.
Because I need to try it with the bow. But the only other monster that's like more as annoying, if not a little bit less, is Doshaguma for me.
Yeah.
Funnily enough, I like the Guardian version of Doshaguma more than I like the normal one. The normal one pisses me off. But the Guardian one, I'm like, I see those explosions. I know I can blow you up.
Yeah.
Like
he's also one I like to fight with the bow because even though he's a grounded opponent, when he does that move where he unlocks all of his weak points, oh, dude, the bow has a move where their focus attack is like this lock on move. You take a moment to lock onto all the weak points and whatever arrows you drop on the opponent, and locking onto him with all those weak points at the same time and shooting an arrow through all of them. It doesn't get much more satisfying than that.
Yeah, and that's also a great segue into the next section of what I wanted to talk about with Monster Hunter Wilds, and that is weapons and combat.
Yeah.
So it might sound like we've been pretty negative, or we have a lot of like criticisms about the game up to this point. If there's one place where I don't have any criticisms, it's the combat feel.
Yeah.
I think this is the best action combat I've played in a co-op game.
Yeah.
Like bar none. It just feels incredible to hit, and I've never had this much fun with so many weapons.
Mm-hmm.
Typically in Monster Hunter, I tend to only play greatsword, longsword, bow, and in Rise, I dabbled with switch axe.
Mm-hmm.
This game, I play greatsword, sword and shield, longsword, bow, insect glaive, hammer, switch axe, and charge blade.
Damn.
And I love every single one of them. Every single one of them. And like I couldn't even like other than the greatsword, it's the only one that's like far and away my favorite, but it's always been my favorite in Monster Hunter. The other weapons, I'm like, I couldn't even rank them. I couldn't. They're all so fun in their own way. And the changes to the combat sandbox that they've made, like with the focus mode, makes them all just shine that much brighter. How have you felt about the combat?
So I've finally started branching off. I just built they have these weapons called Artisan weapons, or Artisan if you want to put the S in there for some reason. Artesian. They have these unique weapons that you build, and I built one for the insect glaive, and I've been playing it when I play with Alex. And every weapon is even more characterized in this game than before. So much so because of not only do they have their unique internal mechanics, the overarching focus attack and focus mode mechanic has given them all their own sort of unique way to play with the focus mode. And so I think that every weapon is like extremely fun in its own way. I haven't found a weapon that I disliked. I just haven't found a weapon that I liked more than bow and charge blade.
Dude, bow and charge blade are so
that is
good.
Yeah, those two are my favorite weapons. Anytime I play a different weapon, I like it, but I cannot find anything that I like as much as bow and charge blade. There's just something unbelievably satisfying about them, and I believe that every weapon has that because I've seen you play with the greatsword, and it looks fun. I've seen people play with the switch axe. It looks fun. So fun. Yeah, you and I had a moment in the beta where we dabbled on the light bowgun, and I've been preaching the like power of the light bowgun forever. I even have been building towards one too.
Nice. My second character is doing that.
Yeah,
dual blades and light bowgun since I don't play that with my main one.
I'm doing light, so I'm gonna make a build where I finally get rid of having the charge blade as my backup weapon for the bow because I don't want to build armor that splits my skills. I just want it to all be optimized for a specific thing. So I'm going to put the dual blades on the bow build and then do a charge blade and a light bow gun build. And those will be my 2 builds because they both benefit from similar skills. So, overall, it's been like extremely fun messing around with the weapons. And they all just feel like, once again, their own fighting game characters in a way.
Yeah. I also wanted to just take this section to discuss also just like how animations feel in combat. And I guess that's might be the wrong word, but the way that combat flows, like as cool as it is to do all these moves and to attack monsters with our attacks, I have never been more impressed with how this game reacts as the player when you're getting hit. There's just a sense of inertia and physicality that's there when you get hit, and it feels like you got hit. Like just this morning before we came to the podcast, I was playing it this morning. Yeah, like I had to log on just to get a little bit of a fix. And when I got smacked, I was fighting Guardian Doshiguma. He smacked me off the ledge with a big smack, and the way that I smacked and twirled, my guy landed though, but then he skidded on the ground before, like, because my weapon was out, before he like grabbed it and then like, stumbled up. And I was like, I've seen it already for 100 hours, but I clap like a seal every time I see it. I love it. It is so good. And then on top of that, so that's what happens when you get like knocked off a ledge and there's like your character will skid across the ground. The best one is when you get wall planted. It is just a you're just like and then you fall over, and I love that. They did it in Dragon's Dogma too, but to see it like here in a multiplayer game in one of my favorite game franchises, I'm just like, this is peak. It is so peak. But yeah, was there anything else in the combat sandbox that like stuck out to you?
No, I think that it is, how do I say this? Nothing that I haven't talked about already. I guess we'll go over that. Nothing that I haven't talked about already. There's just so much there to enjoy and experience. You just have to play it. You just have to play it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I actually think, before we move on to the last part of the game that we haven't talked about, I did just want to say that while I love the combat system, the only criticism I have, and it's not of the combat system, it's the game's difficulty. I do wish that I could use these moves more in challenging fights, because it's so good. It's probably why I'm so positive about this game, is that I'm not thinking about, well, right now it's not, super strong. I just can't help but think, I'm like, man, this is going to be so sick in Master Rank. So I'm really looking forward to that, but I will say that, like, once you get really good at the game, every fight doesn't last very long. So you'll feel I feel too much like a god sometimes.
I will say that, I feel too powerful. I feel like I'm hoping that as updates come out that they will increase difficulty in a lot of the enemies that we fight. Maybe they'll do something and tune some of the health values or maybe our damage values to allow for the fights that I go back and do to be more challenging. And as when Master Rank comes around, I can't wait for whatever they decide to iterate on when it comes to combat. What is this clutch claw going to be for Wilds? What is the like wire bug switching or wire scroll switching that's going to be for this game? It's going to be insane.
Yeah. Now, I did want to talk about, since they did put a lot of effort into it, I think it's time to talk about the story. What did you think of the story overall? I know you talked about how cool the hunter looks, and that's nice. But
I would say that the visually stunning. I thought it was cool how much our character got to interact with things, but the story suffered from really like agonizingly typical writing. It was hard to like a lot of the characters for me.
I was gonna say I actually ended up liking most, except for Nata.
I didn't like Nata.
I didn't like Nata, but I liked Alma and Gemma.
They were fine. Like that's the thing, is they didn't annoy me. That's why I didn't have a problem with them. But there was nothing that I can remember from them doing in the story. Oh, sorry. What is the name of the lady with the cool hair and the hammer?
Oh, Olivia.
Olivia was badass.
Yeah,
I
Olivia
will.
was sick.
I'll give it to Olivia. Olivia was badass. Everybody else, Nada, horrible. I hate that kid.
Yeah, no, that one.
I
He
hate
was
that kid.
To focus the game on him was a choice.
Yeah, yeah. I did not give a shit about his emotion and his character journey. I hate that kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say his development arc was just a little. It was underwhelming to be honest. Like I understood why they went that way, because that's the story they're trying to tell. Is that like I felt like they were trying to tell a story that like monsters aren't monsters. There's a tragicness to them, and it's up to hunters to like stop it when it gets out of hand. That is one thing that I felt was like driven home in this game is that that hunters don't hunt for like fun. They hunt to keep the ecosystem balanced, and I think that's pretty cool. I never really thought that.
Except for when I'm hunting for shoes.
I know, no, but for them, that's not canon. You're solving an issue. Like if you need that many monsters to kill, well, somehow the story will justify that. Oh, there was just an outbreak of chotacabras. Yeah. But I do like that they tried to make it nicer. This isn't an M-rated title. It doesn't need to be all about like murdering and slaughtering. So, I thought it was cool that they tried. I do think that like it does fall a bit flat because of pacing. I think that's more offensive to me than the like cookie cutter writing, because Monster Hunter's always had cookie cutter writing. It's this, as sad as this is to say, this is the best written story of Monster Hunter, and it's a 5 out of 10 on the story. Like the bar is so low it might as well be in hell. Yeah. Like so for me, I wasn't like super mad at it for being basic. I was like, well, I mean, it's better than World.
Yeah.
Like but I still thought, I'm like, yeah, no, if anyone asked me like, you know, even like a month from now, like, yo, dude, how was that story in Wilds? I'm like, I don't even fucking remember it. Yeah. Like I'm just in high rank now.
Yeah, I gotta go back and watch the credits at some point because I skipped the credits. I was ready to just
there's nothing there. I did. I watched them. Great music.
Yeah.
Fantastic music. It's like 5.5 minutes long though.
Yeah. Before we do move on, I did want to say the music was pretty dang good.
That and the combat are like the 10 out of 10s to me.
Yes.
In the game. The music. If you go and listen to the Ishard Cliffs the threat theme, I think it's called, I actually have the name of the song, because I liked it so much that I made it like my song in my camp for a long time. It's too loud to do that all the time. Yeah. So I had to change it. But it's called Shadows Dancing on Ice.
Yeah.
Listen to that track. Listen to it. And you'll be amazed. It'll change your day. Maybe your life. But, yeah, so music was incredible. Combat was incredible. Story was bad. But I do think it would have been better. So if I had any recommendation for people, I would not do optional content until you're done with it.
Until you're done with it, yeah.
Yeah, that was a mistake that we made. And I think that ruined the story pacing significantly, because the story will feel extremely long if you do that, and it will suck. It won't hit.
Yeah, pretty much only go do optional content if it tells you to raise your hunter rank. Otherwise, just continue. Yeah,
and for the most part, for lower rank, because there are a couple story missions in high rank, but in low rank,
just get it done.
There's no hunter rank cap during that part of the game. But yeah, for final thoughts on Monster Hunter, how's it speaking your language?
It is, it speaks my language, but it feels like a, how do I say this? Like I'm missing the conclusion. That's where I'm at. I'm just missing the conclusion.
So I feel very similarly. Like if this game is going to be, and I can call it right now, maybe I'll be wrong. I doubt it. This game will be a 10 out of 10 for me, or a 12 out of 10 when the expansion comes out. Mm-hmm. But right now, it feels like I'm at my favorite theme park that I've ever been to, but half the rides are under construction.
Yeah, so I actually want to akin this to something else that I just recently experienced that's similar. So me and Alex went to New York for a work trip, and we went to see, what was it, Wicked on Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see the full thing. Loved it. It's one of my favorite musicals that I've seen so far. And we watched the movie recently. You only get the first part in the movie. This is you we're waiting for part 2 where like everything goes down. I'm talking in the second half of Wicked. It feels a little bit shorter, but there's so many like resolutions that happen. And I do feel like this is similar to my experience in watching the Wicked film, is that I know already my expectations for the second half are high, because I know not everything that's going to happen with Wilds is expansion, but I have good expectations based off of their track record. So I'm ready and fiending for that next part because I just know how good it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And that's it's just funny that I had that similar feeling between the two different types of entertainment media. So
yeah, that's a great comparison.
Yeah.
But yeah, so both speaks our language, but we're both waiting for more.
Yes. Hungry for more.
But yeah, that's going to do it for our impressions of Monster Hunter Wilds. We're going to take a quick break, but then we'll be right back with our language-defining game. Welcome back from our break. And with this, it's the end of the podcast. You know what it is. We're squaring up. It's the last boss, baby. Yes. Got 3 health bars. Let's go. Today's topic for the last boss is, how does difficulty affect your enjoyment of a game? And I also just got to give you a shout out. Troy's the one who came up with this one. I usually do the final boss topic, but he got it this time. And I couldn't think of a better appropriate question. So I'll ask that to you.
Yeah.
How does difficulty affect your enjoyment of a game?
So I think it definitely extremely affects my my love for a game. So we talked about this recently with one of our friends, Donald, and he and I both kind of expressed how much we love hard games. And I think the reason why is because for me, the most satisfying, I don't play games multiple times, right? I play it one time through, and then I move on to play another game. I think my favorite part of a video game or any type of like experience is the new adventure. I always love the new adventure. And so, if I get something done, I'm ready for the next one. That doesn't mean that I won't, finish a game because I get bored and I'm like, it's no longer new, so I'm over it. But I like difficulty to challenge me and give me that sort of like that feeling of, hey, there's this mountain I have to climb. It's very grueling, but there's a huge reward there. That is what's going to motivate me after I've gotten through that new experience. If that's not there, normally I jump right off because it's like, what's the point? I got into video games originally not because of my love for the experience, but my love for challenge. It was something my mom bought for me. My first video game was she bought me a Sega, she bought me Sonic, and it was so that I can play it while I was waiting for my dad to come pick me up over on the weekends, because you know he had me for the weekends, and so I got to play my games while I was waiting for him. And something about playing the original Sonic games instilled this sort of like feeling of challenge and accomplishment, and that went into fighting games, that went into League of Legends, and they've kind of always been a tool for me to push my brain to achieving something. If I'm not achieving like some type of challenging task, then I'm really not that interested. That's why I like competitive games so much, because in my opinion, there's nothing more challenging than the adaptation of a human mind, right? Mm-hmm. And so difficulty in games has always been pinnacle to getting me to finish the game, because it's what drives me to interact with all the other processes within the game. I'm not going to go and craft unless there's something difficult. I'm not going to go and do all your side content unless I need the levels. I'm not going to do anything else unless there's a reason why. Not just because it's fun, which I don't think that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not what tickles that part in my brain to make me go do it. There's certain times with me and you where I'm like, dude, let's go on an adventure, and that's fun because I get to, it's like the social part of it.
Well, yeah, I don't think video games are ever pigeonholed into one type of experience.
No, that's the beauty of that's the beauty of the video game sort of like medium, is it's so expressive in so many different ways, and there's so many different things for people to enjoy, and the fact that it's all interactive, but so differently interactive. Some people are playing Balatro because that feeling of getting a combo and in your like in your hand is like that's satisfying. You know, some people are playing fighting games because the thought of it's not fun to go and fight somebody in real life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, but nobody likes that. Like, and if you do, good for you. But I'm not trying to lose teeth. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to have like, you know, big old like cauliflower ears.
Yeah.
You know, I like my face. I don't want to like get all beat up. So I'm gonna play a fighting game because that's the closest I can get to that adrenaline and feel of competing with somebody else and throwing blows and that like excitement of combat. And so video games are so beautiful because they have so many different ways for people to enjoy them, interact with them, and achieve whatever it is that they're looking for, whether it's just escapism to get into a new world or just to turn it on for a couple minutes and challenge yourself at like a brain teaser, you know? And for me, difficulty is a big deal because I'm always yearning for the ability to get better than I was yesterday at something. So I like that challenge. How do I challenge myself to be better than I was? How do I, you know, I'm all about optimization, you know?
Yeah, but do you think you need the friction to do that? Because one of the things that statement, like wanting to improve, that's one of the reasons I replay games is to do them faster, do them cleaner, do them better. But but you don't like replaying games,
right? That friction is the catalyst for me to do so.
Okay,
you know, doing it just because I want to be better is different than doing it because something's challenging me to be better. And I like that challenge. That's what like excites me. I'll go look for that challenge in whatever game I play so that I can get the motivation to be better. And so I always like a game that has like a really hard mode. Like I'm not crazy enough to go into one-touch death type modes because then I'll be on the same game for way too long. But I normally am, hey, what's the hardest mode I can play on that's challenging but reasonable? So I'm going to go for that.
I want to say that because that's where I fall on difficulty. I'm much more about game feel. Like Monster Hunter Wilds is not a very difficult game, but the reason why it resonates so well with me is because of the feel of it. And that will always trump difficulty for me. But difficulty, in my experience, only amplifies it actually can amplify positively or negatively. I find that extremely difficult games are not fun for me because what I consider extremely difficult means that the solution is too obtuse. Because one of my favorite things in difficulty is when I make steps. The Souls games are an extreme example of why I love that of this, in the sense that like map knowledge, enemy knowledge, all of that's important. But every time I died, I was like, okay, well, there's a dude hiding behind that corner, or this dude did a crazy move I've never seen before, but now I've seen it. So next time you're not going to kill me, bro. I love that because then I'll just I'll start again and I'll go and do the thing. And I love overcoming the thing that put me down.
Yeah.
But when I get put down by stuff that I don't understand, or I feel, and this is, you know, a fault of mine, if I believe that it's not fair or it shouldn't have happened, then that will ruin the entire enjoyment of the game for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, so I want to, I don't know if I'd call it a fault because you and I approach games very differently, right? And for me, being put in a situation before you and I've met and we've like talked about game design, because I feel like before our like relationship, I was not very into like, I didn't give a shit about like game design or game fairness or anything. It was
the development.
Or the development. I didn't give a shit about any of that. I played it. I liked it. If it was hard, it was fun. I didn't care. And I still retain some of that, but understanding fairness is important. There are certain times where something is poorly designed to be hard. And I think developers are realizing that with so many customizable options on difficulty. We'll use a Veilguard, for example. Some of their enemies are just too spongy that it takes away from the fun. So you can edit the like sponginess of the enemies, still retain their aggressiveness and their amount of damage they do to you, but you change it so that the enjoyment is more fun.
So it feels more like an action game instead of an RPG.
Exactly. Same with Baldur's Gate 3. It has really good difficulty settings. And so there's a difference, and I've learned that sometimes like the difficulty just isn't fair and isn't right. So I wouldn't call it a fault, I would just say an identifying thing.
Yeah. No, I think that's fair. The only reason I consider it a fault is that I'm not always right. There's a lot of times where I don't understand it and the answer is clear. I just wasn't able to get it.
Yeah.
And that's not necessarily a flaw in the design. Not every human will be able to view things and solve things the exact same. So that's my only thing, is that sometimes if I'm in a bad mood when I first start a game, and then it's killing me with stuff that's a little more obscure than it should be, or not even more than it should be, it's just too obscure for me to see it immediately. I get too mad, get too frustrated, and I delete it.
Yeah.
Fighting games were like that a lot for me, because I was just like, dude, what is happening in this game?
Yeah.
And if I was in a bad mood and then I got like just, rushed down by someone by a bunch of stuff that I never seen before, don't know what the answer is. And then also when I go and find the answer, I find out, oh, it's actually this really hard technical, they put you in a bunch of traps, bro. You were fucked from the start.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that usually made I was like, okay, yeah, I don't like this game now. But I have tried to overcome that. And it has helped, because I think that once you understand where the difficulty's coming from, I actually do think that harder difficulties can amplify your enjoyment extremely.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people, and I'm only talking from my own experience, but I feel like a lot of issues with difficulty and not liking higher difficulty just comes from a lack of understanding why that difficulty's there.
I actually, I used to come from a place where I thought that if you didn't play games on hard mode or harder difficulty, then you were like a lesser player. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Not gonna lie. And I've learned that harder doesn't always mean better.
Yeah.
It just means there's an opportunity for you to enjoy it in a different way. I think that difficulty can, but doesn't need to affect your enjoyment. It can. It's so much more flexible than I used to think it was. It was like, does the game have a hard mode? No, it's just normal and easy. Is it easy? Is it easy to play through the game? Yeah, then the game's for babies. I don't want to play it. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's how it was. I mean, you've heard me talk about Mario and ad nauseum about how much I hate how easy Mario is. But that just doesn't mean that the game's bad. It just means that there's a certain level of challenge that you want. And the beauty of video games is that there's so many different games to go and get that challenge.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I wanted to ask, what are some of the games that you would put on your most difficult experience and least difficult experience?
Ooh. I would say probably the most difficult had to probably be the Ninja Gaiden 2. Of games that I've actually beaten. Because there's been plenty of games that I can't even remember that if they're too hard, I just bounced off of.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd probably say Ninja Gaiden 2 is one of the hardest ones.
Same. That game fucked me up a bit.
I couldn't even beat the hard mode. I saw you guys say that. And I was like, yeah, couldn't be me. I played normal, baby.
Yeah, that game beat my ass. That game has been beating my ass.
If I had to say, you asked which one were the easier games too, right? Probably Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing, yeah.
That game's so easy because it's just about building a village, being nice to people. But I mean, if I had to go to an actual game that has execution, it's probably Kirby.
Yeah.
Kirby's easier than Mario in my opinion. So
I agree. I think that Kirby is way easier than Mario. I played Kirby in the Forgotten Lands, and while I didn't hate the game, it was an action game, and an easy action game is a little bit more. The easiness is a little bit more glaring than a platformer. So it didn't really capture me as much as I wanted, which is not fair because I loved Kirby. So I got to go back and try the game.
Yeah, the thing that makes me mad about those games is just not having the option.
Yeah.
Because I think that games, I don't think it's wrong. I think the normal difficulty is what the developer intended you to play.
Yes.
That's how I always view games. So whenever I'm reviewing a game, I tend to just play it first on normal, because I'm like, what's the experience you wanted me to have? Hard is for veterans, where it's like, hey, did you not find this challenging? Let's ramp it up a bit.
Yeah.
And that's how I've always looked at hard modes. So that's why when franchises I love, I'll start on hard.
Yeah.
If it's a franchise I've never played, no fucking way. I'm playing it on normal. I want to know what the developers trying to get me to play.
Yeah.
Or trying to get me to experience. But yeah. Sorry, that was a bit of a tangent.
No, I
for
understand.
difficulty.
Yeah, for me, I'd say some of the most difficult experiences I've had are Ninja Gaiden, FromSoft games. That was a really humbling and learning experience for me, especially playing Dark Souls 3 with no guides, just kind of playing it in my house by myself. No, I didn't use multiplayer until the very end of the game because I didn't even really know how to. I didn't want to use it. Yeah, how to use it or who to invite. I didn't want a random to come in and like. There's so many things I heard about the FromSoft game. So Dark Souls 3, I played that, and that was a very difficult experience for me. Getting jumped from like corners and stuff and all that kind of like this. It's a trial and error game.
Mm-hmm.
FromSoft is trial and error. You have to go in, get fucked up, lose stuff, and be ambushed to learn what the game is trying to like show you.
Yeah,
it happens all the time. It's tried and true in their design, and it's how you react to being ambushed essentially that will make or break your experience. And that taught me a lot when it comes to games in general, because like any game I played, everything was kind of presented to me like, hey, here's what you have to deal with. How are you going to approach it? There's so many times in FromSoft I'm like, hey, here's a little item to pick up, and I go to pick it up and now I'm dead.
I was gonna say FromSoft like doesn't even tell you jack shit. They're just like, no, you're a piece of shit undead. You just woke up. Get out there, boy.
Yeah, figure it out. And you're just like, God, and it's like there's so many times where I like that the difficulty of those games have like beaten me down, but I became a fan because of how difficult they were. One of my other probably my most memorable difficult experience is playing Super Smash Bros. Melee against 3 level 9 opponents against me by myself. And I used to do that all the time.
Dude,
and that's what I do. Yeah, go through the entire class, the entire cast of the game, build little fake teams like Marth, Roy, and whoever. And it was like me versus 3 level 9s. And that was some of my most fun that I've had when it came to like optional difficulty in games. You know, so difficulty for me is important about keeping me attached to a game and giving me that hunger to complete the game. But I've learned in sort of maturing as a gamer that it's not necessary. I used to think that it was, if the game's not hard, it don't matter. But now I'm recognizing that if the game's not hard, it's not for me.
I was gonna say, I think for me, difficulty is always is the cherry of a cake for a game, and it's what will keep me invested in playing it after I've beaten it originally. It's not usually required for investment unless it's too passive. But I've had too passive of games where I'm like, okay, this is just baby's first video game. But you know, at the end of the day though, like my favorite games usually do have difficulty options. Yeah. And it's all about just overcoming those after I've gotten used to everything. And that's what I love about them. But you know, with that, the boss has been defeated. HP is at 0. It's time to go to the video game vocab before we do our final credits.
Yes.
And what's the word for today? It's action locked, which this happens a lot in Monster Hunter. In the context of video games, because actually action locked is a firearm thing. Just as a side note, I did not know that was a term for firearms. Yeah, go America. But in the context of video games, action locked typically means that a player is temporarily unable to perform specific actions, such as using items or abilities, due to the current situation or game mechanics. You get stunned in Monster Hunter, you ain't doing nothing. You gotta sit there, you're action locked. Yeah. So now you know. The more you know about games. Yeah. So the next time you're stuck in a game and you can't do anything, they'll be like, they action locked me. Exactly. And then all your friends will be like, wow, he's got great vocabulary. I wonder where he got that.
All right. And with that, it is time for the final credits. It is the last part of the show where we give
you
30 seconds
uninterrupted
to say whatever your heart desires.
Be it salty,
sweet,
or say nothing at all.
The mic is yours.
Tell us what's on your mind.
And it is my turn in 3, 2, 1. So I'm going to take this moment to just tell everybody who's been just grinding on Monster Hunter, take a minute, call your family. I feel like all of us can do good by calling our moms, calling our dads, calling our brothers, calling our sisters. Just go say what's up. Ask them how they've been doing. Ask them how their day's been. Just take this time, couple minutes, to go say hi to your family. We need a little bit more peace and love right now. So that's it.
And cut.
Game Language is recorded at Grizzly Voices Studios in Mesa, Arizona. Our producers are Jason Flynn and Troy Brown. Our intro music is our personal track, Penguin Symphony. Our outro music is Jump by Snail's House, also provided by Riot Music. Our editor and sound engineer is Adonis Shiflin.